Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? How much economic freedom do we have in the United States? Tonight, the government doesn't believe in economic freedom. The root of economic freedom is the recognition of the right to own private property. That includes the right to use it unmolested, to dispose of it without anyone's permission, and to exclude anyone from it, even the government. Suffice it to say, no American president since the advent of the income tax and the Federal Reserve 100 years ago has fully accepted or meaningfully defended that right. The more the government extracts in taxes and the more it inflates the money supply, the more it rejects and assaults your property rights. Every president in the 20th century, even Ronald Reagan, has signed legislation raising income taxes. The theory behind the income tax is that the government's need for cash is so great it can just take it from your employer before your employer pays you, before you even see the cash, and use it as it sees fit. This presumes that the federal government has a greater right to your income than you do. There really can be no rationale for income taxes without that belief. Do you know anyone outside of the government who believes that? If you believe that you have the natural right to own your property and to trade and spend your money as you see fit, then there is only one Republican candidate who agrees with you. That candidate, when asked last night in the South Carolina debate what the rate of income taxes should be, replied simply, zero. One needs to laugh at Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum and Newt Gingrich as they pitifully attempt to defend natural rights and the right to pursue happiness when they have no respect for the right to own private property. A robust acceptance of property rights also means an acceptance of the free market, as opposed to a government-managed economy. All the Republican candidates but one support a regulated economy that would be one regulated by them. And regrettably, in America, in 2012, we have neither the acceptance of the right to private property by the government, nor one free of the government's regulation. But if the political process works the way it is supposed to, with a popularly elected government protecting everybody's natural rights, we can have private property and a free market again. The absence of economic freedom here today is nothing new and didn't come about overnight. It is the culmination of the progressive era, which gave us the Federal Reserve and the income tax, the New Deal, which gave us the beginning of entitlements, the Great Society, which enhanced the numbers of people who receive entitlements, Ronald Reagan, who bashed entitlements during the 6 years he was running for president, but did nothing to dismantle them when he was in the White House, and every president from Eisenhower to George W. Bush, all of whom just accepted the welfare and warfare state as if the Constitution didn't exist. Today, of course, we have President Obama, committed to private ownership but government control of the means of production, who wants to enhance the welfare and warfare state by having socialized medicine and perpetual war at the same time. The essence of the government assaults on economic freedom is presidentially proposed, congressionally engineered, and judicially accepted redistribution of wealth via the central planning of the economy. And the consequence of all this is the present lamentable state of affairs, where one half the country is financially dependent on the other half. When this state of affairs was reached in Ayn Rand's great novel Atlas Shrugged, she had the productive half stop working just to see what the government would do. President Obama's beloved Dodd-Frank law is the latest act of government theft of freedom in the name of economic equality. It brings us one step closer to total government control of the means of producing wealth. With its unaccountable bureaucracy, Federal Reserve-generated funding, and standardless and appeal-proof rulemaking power, it puts into the hands of an unconfirmed by the Senate nanny-stater the power to monitor and regulate virtually all economic activity in the United States. Do you know anyone outside the government who really wants this? History tells us there's not a single example in all of history of central planning producing more prosperity than a free market. The framers understood that. That's why they wrote a constitution that prohibited an income tax, forbade the states from interfering with contracts, and prevented the federal government from taking life, liberty, or property without due process. All those constitutional prohibitions have by now been nullified, either by an amendment or by disregarded consensus. Do you know anyone inside the government who'll admit to that? the need for a game changer in the White House who will commit the government to the defense of private property and free enterprise is obvious. If you live in South Carolina, there is only one such person on the ballot, and he's creeping up in the polls there just like he did in the days before Iowa and New Hampshire. You know who he is. From New York, defending freedom, everybody's freedom, every night of the week. So long, America.